Hey guys, my name is Jonathon Henderson with Pressure Washing Marketing Pros. In today's video, I want to go ahead and show how you can break through $30,000 to $50,000 a month in your exterior cleaning business. Because if you're in this revenue range a month, that means that yearly you're probably doing $300,000 to $500,000 a year. And this is the video for you because we work with plenty of clients that are in this revenue range. In fact, this is where majority of our clients actually consist of. And so I definitely know the unique problems that you guys are having in your business because I talk to these business owners because they're our clients every single day. And so the biggest thing too is why marketing at $30,000 to $50,000 is a whole different ball game, and why this video is for you is because you're working harder than ever, but you feel like scalability is still out of reach, and you feel like working harder isn't going to necessarily get you to the goal that you need. Because you probably feel maxed out and marketing costs are rising, but you're not confident in the ROI. And so I see a lot of guys at this revenue range, they're getting leads, but guess what? They don't know what is really truly bringing them an ROI. And you have repeat customers, but revenue will still fluctuate. And so you always wonder why these bigger companies that are doing like $1 million plus, why they always seem to be consistent is because they have a very large customer database. And that's something that we're going to talk about later on in this video. And so if you're also in this position, you're probably still the one that's making every sale and every marketing decision. And you may have one or the other already accomplished, or you still may be doing both. So you may not be doing the sales, but you're still making all the marketing decisions. Or you're not doing the marketing, but you're still making all the sales decisions, or better yet, you're doing most, right? And so most businesses stall out right here because they're still marketing as they're a $10,000 a month business. Because at this stage, it's not about more leads. It's about better strategy and better systems, right, guys? And so the plateau problem, why growth feels harder and not easier at this stage, because you're getting leads, but they're always not the right ones, right? So you're like, hey man, I'm getting a lot of leads, but I'm getting this driveway cleaning over here, and my crew's got 5 jobs, but they're all driveway cleaning, or, we're going all the way out to, 30 miles out to go ahead and complete this job. And I want to go ahead and make sure that we're getting high premium, paying clients. Because once you get a taste of that, you don't want to go back, and you want to find a way to scale that further. And I'm going to show you how you can do that in this video so that you are getting the right leads consistently. And you're still competing on price, probably. You may not know it, but you're still competing on price, and you may not be positioned as the full expert in your area. And that's why those businesses that do $1 million plus or $50,000 or more, that's how you're able to look at them and say, hey, how are these guys charging so much right now? And that's why they are. And you're probably still focused on revenue, but profitability is inconsistent. And so that's one of the biggest factors that I see too of guys that are doing $300,000 to $500,000 a year in the exterior cleaning industry, is that they're so focused on revenue that they're not focused on the profitability. Because I'll talk to some guys and I'll say, man, how are you having money issues right now and you just had a $60,000 a month, right? And they're like, man, Jonathan, I had this happen, and that tells me that they're not being as profitable as they need to. And so also at this stage, you're losing money in your sales process without even realizing it. A lot of the time, guys don't even realize it. I was actually on a call today with one of our clients, and we were talking about this, and I was telling him, I was bringing him back to the basics, right? And he's like, man, you're right. I was so focused on revenue. I was so focused on getting new leads that I didn't even look at our sales process, right? And we found out and we uncovered that there was something in his sales process, right, that was going wrong. And so I will also talk about that in here too, because marketing can bring you leads, but if your business model determines how much money, you actually keep, right? And so that's the biggest thing at this stage too. So let's recap how you got here, right? Let's recap over, because guys, I have videos on, what kind of marketing you should do at $0 to $10,000. I also have videos about how much, or what type of marketing you should do when you're doing $10,000 to $30,000 a month too, right? And so when you're doing, and I'll link those videos in the description below. But when you're doing $0 to $10,000, guys, you're doing a lot of grassroots marketing, so door knocking, referrals, you're getting your first reviews, you're setting up basic social media and websites, you're posting in Facebook groups, and your mindset is, I'll do anything to get the phone ringing. When you're doing $10,000 to $30,000, that's when systems start to take over. And that's when you start introducing other marketing levers into your business. So Google Business Profile and SEO, you probably started investing into. You probably started investing into paid ads, whether that's local service ads, Google ads, Facebook ads. You know, you're offering a higher ticket service because now that you've been in the game a little bit longer, there's probably other services that you are also offering now, like just like paver sealing and concrete sealing or roof cleaning, those type of jobs that you're also offering, and even Christmas light installation. And so that, you know, you have smarter pricing and you focus for the shift from volume and you try to get profitability. But when you get to $30,000 to $50,000, guys, those same things kind of pop up. So it's all about consistency, control, and scale when you're at this level. And so what is this stage really about? And what we're going to be talking about is you don't need to market harder. You don't need more tools. You don't need more crews just yet, because once you eclipse that plateau of $50,000, that's when you start to need more crews, and you don't need more leads. And so right now, guys, we'll get into it. And so what we're going to be covering today, guys, are 5 strategic shifts from, you know, we're going to talk about from hustles to systems, which basically means, you know, how to build a predictable marketing engine that runs consistently even when things slow down, right? And then from, you know, how to have premium positioning so that you can prevent yourself from being in price wars. So you stop competing on price and start attracting high ticket clients with a premium brand. And then go from gut instinct to data-driven strategy. You guys don't know how many times I sometimes talk to guys and I say, hey man, how many leads do you think that you need in this area for you to be successful? And guys will be like, I don't know, Jonathan. And I literally had a guy tell me, which is what actually motivated me to go ahead and put that as a headline. I had a guy tell me, hey man, it's just gut instinct. You know, it's just gut instinct on what I think. And you know what? That doesn't cut it not knowing what channels are producing the most profit. So that's why we're going to talk about from gut instinct to data-driven strategy. We're also going to talk about how you can turn one-off jobs into reoccurring revenue and going from that operator to CEO so that you remove yourself from the day-to-day in your business so it can scale without you. And so let's talk about from hustle to system and creating a predictable marketing engine, guys. So why is more leads not the answer? Because at $30,000 to $50,000 a month, lead volume isn't going to be your core issue anymore, guys. Like, you're going to get leads. And the biggest thing that I hear about guys when they talk about this, which is why we're going to be talking about it later, is that they're getting leads, but they're like, Jonathan, it's just not the premium leads that I want. It's not the high ticket ones that I want, man. And that's the reason why it's not going to be about getting more of those, you know, more of those empty calories, as I like to put it, right? It's not about getting more of those empty calories. It's about maximizing the calories you already have or getting better macros. I actually was using this analogy to where I was saying that it's actually easier to probably eat 8 bags of chips than it is 8 bags of apples, even though 8 bags of apples have less calories in them, right? And so that's how you have to look at this in this sense. It's not necessarily more. It's going to be about, you know, really looking at building out a system. And so you're already getting leads. You're spending more on marketing. You know, your business is dependent upon, you know, you reacting to slow seasons. That's the biggest thing. And you're chasing volume instead of what? Building systems that actually scale, guys. And so I see a lot of guys where they'll say, hey, Jonathan, I'm not running Google ads. What type of advertising do I need to keep doing for my business? And I said, dude, are you hitting up your customer list? Are you doing these different things off the checklist? And guys say, no, I'm not. So you have to shift your mindset, guys, from here, that it's no longer about quantity, it's about structure. And so what do I mean by that, guys? Well, the first thing is instead of doing opportunistic, you know, marketing, you need to do systemized marketing. So what does opportunistic marketing mean, guys? It means running ads when things are just slow, reacting to seasons. You know what I mean? Reacting to like the season with last minute offers. So like, what does that mean, guys? If it's like the fall time, you're in September, like, hey man, I'm trying to run this fall gutter cleaning, you know, special, whatever it is. And it's like, dude, you should have been running that earlier, right? You have no formal plan or follow-up structure with your current customers. And so you're getting a lot of leads that are coming in, but you're not even nurturing those leads that you have. And, you know, a lot of the time the owners are still relying on every lead. And what I mean by that is you may not be answering the phone. You may have an office admin, but at the end of the day, if anything were to go wrong with the leads or the sales, who's fixing that problem? You are, right? So what is systemized marketing? Well, you build out quarterly planning and how you're going to allocate your budget, right? You use multiple channels working together. So omnipresence, as I talk about, guys, you want to be everywhere. You have an automated lead nurturing and follow-up system, and that equals predictable revenue, month after month. So you don't grow by chasing leads. You grow by controlling the flow of the leads that you're already getting, guys, right? It's like an empty bucket. If I'm still getting a lot of leads, but I have a hole at the bottom of my bucket, right? I'm not maximizing that. I got to shore up that, that hole right there so I can keep all of that water. You know what I mean? And so that's the biggest thing that you guys want to go ahead and do. And so you don't need more leads. You just need a system that turns them into book jobs. So what does that mean, guys? How do you generate leads more predictably? Well, you run on both paid and organic. So LSA, SEO, all of that, guys. You have a CRM. These are basic things that I talked about, which is why I'm breezing through these things. But you automate follow-ups day 1, day 3, day 7, so nothing slips through the cracks. So you're always running automated follow-ups with people that haven't closed. So you close more jobs consistently. You have a repeatable sales process, meaning that same script, same follow-up every single time, so that there's no introduction to any outliers. Because when you follow the same script, you have the same follow-up, and you do it the same way every single time, you're going to get predictable results. And then you need to delegate quoting and follow-up, right? To, at the very least, a VA, a virtual assistant, or your office admin, because I see a lot of guys not maximize their VAs or their office admin at this level as well. And so you need to automatically delegate, the quote follow-up or any kind of sales follow-up in that sense, or answering the phone to a VA or office admin. And obviously use social proof and also have packages, right? So different packages that people can end up buying, whether it's for gutter cleaning, reoccurring packages, whatever it may be. You guys want to make sure that you have that, right? And so that's a big thing. And you want to track every dollar. So what are these? This is not just an alphabet soup right here, guys. What is this? CPA means cost per acquisition. How much is it costing you to acquire a client? Lifetime value, that's what LTV is. So what's a lifetime value? What is the average lifetime value that a customer has, right? And what's the return on investment? And so we'll talk about this later more extensively, but I'll give an overview of it right now, guys. So what you want to track, guys, is your CPA. So how much does it cost to get a paying customer? Because then you know how to price, right, guys? Where's the lifetime value? Do your customers actually come back, guys? Or are they just one-time jobs? If you're not tracking that information, then you're not going to know where you can maximize, different leaky buckets that you have in your business, right? For growing in that sense. And revenue per lead source. So you want to know, guys, what is driving you the most leads. If you don't know that, you may be investing your time in the wrong actual source when you need to be pivoting, right? Or you may be cutting off the source that's actually bringing you majority of your leads, right? Which is hurting your business. You want to have return on ad spend as well. So which channels are giving you the most profit per dollar? So if you're not tracking CPA, LTV, and revenue per channel, you're just guessing and you're not scaling your business. So guys, right here, what ends up happening is that most businesses at this stage are still chasing lead volume, right? And so your job now, guys, is to go ahead and maximize the revenue per job. It's not just about getting more jobs in that sense. So do you have a process in your sales system where you're upselling things, right? You may look at somebody's window. Are you giving your techs an opportunity to go ahead and upsell? Are you giving them bonuses in that sense? These are things that guys don't really consider. You know what I mean? And so you want to have your guys have a checklist everywhere they go to check certain things. And at a certain stop, they can have a script or a sequence if they need to upsell that. And then let them, follow that checklist. And, you can have a bonus structure in place to incentivize your guys doing so. So you have to make that shift, guys. You know what I mean? To track your average job size. Most guys aren't tracking their average job size in that sense. And so I ask guys, like, what's your average job size? And most guys just guess, or they just say, well, my average ticket's like $350. And I know that's just an assumption in that sense. Right, guys? And so you really want to track this to the T, because that's going to allow you to know what to scale up and, what services to not do as much, what services to actually promote more. So A big thing too is that you want to promote high margin services as well, like roof cleaning, paver sealing, HOA work. You want to go ahead and promote those high margin services and go after those as well, because guess what? Those are going to give you higher ticket items. Because one of our clients, and I didn't disagree with him, he thought that I was going to contend with him, but I was like, nah, man, you might be right. But he's up north, and he wanted to run paver sealing ads, and guess what? He closed a paver sealing ad for he closed a paver sealing lead for $17,000. It was a rich doctor out there in that area. Big city, guys. You guys know. I won't say the city, but he probably knows who he is if he's watching this video. And so the big thing, guys, is that like when you have those higher ticket jobs in that sense, you don't even at that point it really drives your revenue up. And so eliminate low dollar services that also tie up your crews. And so we'll talk about that as well, guys. So it's not about staying busy, because a lot of the time, when you're going from $0 to $30,000 a month, whatever it may be, it's about staying busy. To get from $5,000 a month to like $30,000 a month, you just want to be as busy as you can possible. But that doesn't scale, right? And so at this point, you have to think differently and make that shift. And so strategic planning, so preparing for that $50,000 dollar plus level a month. So what do you do to wrap this section up right here is you can't scale past $50,000 by thinking month to month. So you need to build a 90-day marketing calendar with seasonal campaigns. Be intentional with what you're doing, because if you don't plan, you plan to fail. Right, guys? Allocate budget based on high ticket lead sources, which we'll talk about, but you want to allocate, more of your budget for those high ticket lead sources. You want to review your key metrics quarterly, your job size, your close rate, your cost per acquisition. And you need to start removing yourself from quoting, and you need to forecast your crew capacity, towards your revenue goals. Because at that time, if your crew is at capacity and it's lower ticket kind of jobs, you need to be looking at that. You know what I mean? And you also need to be looking at what is the efficiency in which your crew can complete jobs. Because one thing that is funny enough, guys, is that when I was in the junk removal game, we used to have guys that used to be on a job site and they used to take like 3 hours. And I'm like, dude, this job only takes like an hour, right? And so we weren't incentivizing our guys. Why would they take longer in that sense? If the schedule's already booked up for that day, even if it's a lower ticket service, guess what, guys? They're not going to work as hard, because they're going to just maximize the time that they have, because they're not going to have the mindset that we do as employers or entrepreneurs. And so I implemented a bonus. I implemented bonuses into what we were doing with our team. And guess what? They got a lot of things done, so I could add more to the capacity at that sense. Right? So you want to go ahead and track that stuff. Now, guys, we're going to talk about, putting yourself in a premium position and not to have any more price wars. Right, guys? So you need to create an unbeatable market position. So at this level, you can't rely on good service. You need to be the absolute obvious choice, because everybody's going to have good service to a degree. And so why positioning matters is because competitors are watching you, and they're going to be undercutting your pricing. Because if you're doing $300,000 to $500,000 a year in your exterior cleaning business, they're probably in the upper 20% of, businesses, right? And so majority of exterior cleaning businesses are in that $0 to $30,000 a month kind of range. But if you're exceeding $30,000 a month in that sense, then guess what, guys? They're looking at you, and they're going to undercut you. They're going to try to do everything that they can to get your jobs. So buyers compare you directly against other people in your area, as you know. They do that. So if you don't stand out, price becomes the only differentiator, and you don't want that. You know what I mean? So how do you build market dominating positions, guys? Well, you have to create, you have to craft unique offers, whether that's warranties, whether that's premium guarantees in that sense. And then as I talked about, in other videos in that sense, you need to use proof, have testimonials, visual case studies, video testimonials in that sense, because people buy off of that. People buy off of that. I hear people all the time when it even comes to our services. They're like, hey, man, I heard this guy say something good about your services. And so it automatically puts you in that premium position. And you also want to make claims no one else can match. As much as that sounds, guys, because one thing I've always learned is that the richest people may not be the smartest or even have the best business systems. The businesses that do the most are the businesses that people know. Right? It's the businesses that people know in that. So there's sometimes where people have absurd pricing or whatever it may be. It's like, look at those guys doing that. But it's like, that's getting them more money, guys. And so, one thing could be like only 12-month roof guarantee in Atlanta, right? Whatever it is, you guys want to do that, and we'll talk about some of that as well later. But the best positioned businesses never compete on price because no one else is offering what they do. So guys, you need to offer something that other people cannot offer. And you're in a position now to where, guess what? You can do that, you can do that especially with where majority of exterior cleaning businesses are in that $0 to $30,000 range. You can go ahead and leverage more of your time and your money at that point, which they don't have. And so outmarket your competition. So what to avoid, right, guys? So you need to outmarket the competition without lowering your price. So how do you do that, guys? So your competitors are running the same ads. They're doing all of that stuff. So what you need to avoid is reacting to every competitor's promotion. So as I talked about, guys, you got to have your own unbeatable offer, because what I see is guys will drop the price or they'll blend in with generic messaging. And so what they'll do is when they're creating their offer, guys, they're going to be like, oh, well, this guy over here offers this. And they just create basically the same type of offer in that. And I say that's not really going to move the needle for you. It really isn't. Having the same exact offer as this other individual, as this other person, is not going to move the needle. And so what you need to do is instead is you need to audit what your competitors are doing, right? You need to audit that, and you need to build your messaging directly around their weaknesses, as I talked about. And so, use offers that are hard to ignore. As I told you guys, one of the biggest ones that we did is we used to always say on time or it's free. And man, that worked all the time. And it made sure that our guys went on, were on time as well. And so things like that, like that's an unbeatable offer. Who says that? Who says on time or it's free? You know what I mean? Who says that, right? But that's an unbeatable offer at that point. Because guess what, guys? People, especially in the home service space, they, what I've realized is that they just, because like if you look at roofing, right? Roofing, it has a lot of different issues. And I know we're talking about exterior cleaning, guys, but still, when you just look at home services, people want you to be on time and they want you to get the service done as best as you can possible. Those are the only two things that, really that the customer really cares about. And of course they care about other things like the experience, the pricing, but the biggest, the biggest hang up is like, oh, are these guys going to come on time? Because what ends up happening is that, oh, we're 3 weeks booked out, or we're super busy right now. And so premium brands don't react, they lead. So set the standard and make the competition irrelevant. So you set the standard. That's what you need to do. Set the standard for what your pricing is going to be. Set the standard for what your guarantees are be. Set the standard for what your offer is going to end up being in that sense. Right, guys? And so obviously we talked about, pricing structure and how you can do that by adding values, by adding free add-ons like driveway cleaning or gutter touch-ups, warranties, VIP scheduling, adding different packages. We know tiered pricing puts you in a premium position as well, because it helps customers self-select based on value and not on price. It anchors your higher ticket offer as a premium option, and it creates a natural upsell opportunity in that sense. And so that's why, guys, I'm not going to cover it, too in depth, but that's why you want to have, if you want to be positioned as a premium brand, you know what I mean? It automatically, one of the best things is it's a natural upsell opportunity. And so that's something that you guys want to make sure that you are doubling down on, right? And your digital presence is your brand. And so one big thing that I want to go ahead and see is that, why does this matter? Is because the biggest thing that, and I hear a lot of guys that are doing in this revenue range that are doing $30,000 to $50,000 a month, which is like $300,000 to $500,000 a year. I hear them say all the time, I look at their websites and I'm like, dude, your website still looks like it's from 10 years ago in that sense. And so that just puts you in the same category as a $10,000 a month company. How are you going to let a $10,000 a month company have a better website than you do? Right? Because it puts you in the same level as them at that point. The customer's going to look at you as if your service is just like theirs. That's why your digital presence does matter. And so I also see disconnected from branding across platforms kills trust. And so as I've talked about in the past, people have different colors, they have different logos. I've seen where guys are in the $300,000 to $500,000 range and they have a different logo on their Facebook than they do on their website, or vice versa. You know what I mean? And so you want to make sure it's consistent, right? So higher paying customers, they expect professionalism everywhere. It doesn't matter where it's at. YouTube, Facebook, your website, everywhere, even your next door profile, they're expecting professionalism at every step of the way. And that's how you set yourself apart. So what to improve now? Align your websites, ads, reviews, and social media with the same tones, same visuals, right, guys? Make sure every channel speaks to the same premium offer. Make sure that you have that same premium offer on every single channel in that sense. So if your online presence doesn't look like a premium provider, you won't attract premium jobs. So make sure that your digital presence is as good as it can be, which we'll talk about later as well. So guys, when it comes to that too, just refine your branding and build trust. So consistent logos, route vehicles, all of that. You guys already know that in that sense. You guys already know that. That's why I will go past that. But one thing that you can do too, guys, is that if you're in this revenue range, and there's guys that have been in business for like 2 to 3 years that are already doing $300,000 to $500,000, especially if they're in big metropolitan areas like Seattle, Atlanta, Houston. If they're in big markets like that, I see it all the time. And so a lot of those guys will say, well, Jonathan, if I'm newer in business, I'm doing that. How can I set myself up as a premium business when there's other guys that have been established for 15 plus years? Well, if you're newer, 1 to 2 years, highlight momentum. So one thing you can say is, oh, we've cleaned over 2,000 homes in our first 18 months of business, right? Because that sets you as a premium option. Like, dang, how are they able to clean 2,000 homes in 18 months? These guys must be the shit, Lean on customer reviews. So if you're doing this, you probably have a lot of good customer reviews, right? And your fast growth. And if you're more established, like 3 to 5 plus years, promote your stability and long-term relationships with your clients. Like, use real stats. So something you could say is like 80% of our clients rebook within 12 months. These are things that guys don't necessarily look at. And so you want to show experience. You want to show, repeat customer or commercial clients, expanded services. And so time is only a strength if you leverage it to position yourself as a trusted expert. And so even if you do have experience and you don't leverage that in business, then nobody cares, right? Nobody's going to know. If they don't know you from Adam, if they don't know you from anything, and they don't know how long you've been in business, you have to show them that, right? So like I will say again, time in business is only a strength if you leverage it to position yourself as a trusted expert. If you don't, then guess what, guys? It's not going to be a benefit for you, and you can still make it a benefit for you even if you're newer. If you're newer and you say, man, I cleaned 2,000 homes in 18 months, people will be like, man. But if you say, yeah, I've cleaned 2,000 homes in 6 years, then it's kind of like, it doesn't hit the same, right? So you can leverage it whether you're newer or you're more established. You can leverage that time in any kind of way that you can. So make sure that you're leveraging that, guys. So what is the whole strategic playbook, guys, to wrap this section up about branding and positioning is the core elements of it. Have a clear, unique selling proposition that no one else is offering, right? Offer tier pricing that elevates average job size, have consistent branding, have high quality reviews, proof of excellence, and you need to go ahead and leverage the time. So you need to leverage the time that you've been in business, whether that's newer or whether that's going to go ahead and be you've been established at that point. So let's go to the next section, guys, which is going to be from gut instinct to data-driven strategy, because this is one of the most important lessons right here that I think guys need to do. I think this is the actual most important section, of this entire presentation, guys, of how to, elevate past $30,000 to $50,000 months, is that you have to optimize what's already working, because guys don't do that. They think I need new, and it's like, you don't need new, you just need better. And what better is like, you don't need new, you need better. Better systems, better processes, and you need to have all of that. Not new systems, not new processes, not new leads, right? Well, I should say, if you're having better systems, it's going to be new systems. But you guys know what I mean. You don't need new leads. So intro. So stop wasting your marketing budget. So at $30,000 to $50,000, right, guys, you're already spending all those socials, right? Your revenue's growing. You're adjusting your budget by the season, or you're not adjusting your budget by the season, right? You probably have the same marketing budget throughout the entire year, and you're probably doing a little bit of everything instead of doubling down on what actually delivers. So you're diluting yourself. You know what I mean? And so the fastest way to scale isn't more marketing. It's eliminating waste in your current strategy, guys. That's really what it is. Eliminating that waste in the current strategy in that sense. And guys think that more platforms that I market on, I'm going to go ahead and grow my business. And that is not the case, guys. Now let me show you. Refine your current marketing initiatives, right? So you need to audit all your different channels that you're doing: organic, yard signs, LSA, Facebook ads, Google ads, SEO. And as I told you guys earlier in here, you need to track your cost per acquisition and revenue, or ROI by the source. So track how much it costs you to attain a client on LSAs, on SEO, on Google Ads, right? And look at your ROI from that, because then you'll be able to cut the poor margins and reinvest more money in the top performers, right, guys? And so also you want to fix leaky bucket issues, as I talked about in the beginning. So slow follow-up, no remarketing, inconsistent sales process. You need to look at those and identify those things in your business. So guys, one big thing is spend based on market and location ROI, right? So spend on that. So not all service areas are created equal, and your budget should reflect that, guys. So stop spreading your budget evenly, especially when it comes to, it's not just about ads, because I'll have another video on that about marketing channels. But the biggest thing, guys, is that you want to go ahead and identify the top 3 to 5 zip codes based on job size and close rate, right? And eliminate low income or low margin service areas, or areas that you don't really like, your bottom 5 zip codes at that sense. You know what I mean? Eliminate those at that point and focus on those top 3 to 5. Because imagine this, guys. Imagine you go to an HOA, right? You're going into an HOA, and based off your top 3 to 5 zip codes, you probably have a lot of clients that are in those neighborhoods or in those areas. And so let's just say there's a neighborhood that has 100 residents, and you've cleaned 15 of those residents in that neighborhood. Well, guess what, guys? Word of mouth travels very fast in that sense. It's like a multiplier. So if you clean those 15 people, and those 15 people tell another 15, if just each of those 15 people just told one other person, you double. That's 30 people now that you might be, potentially working with, right? Because you maximize your marketing strategy in that specific area, and you can leverage that. You can say, hey, we did this person's house, this person's house, this person's house in this neighborhood. Now imagine you go to one of your lowest performing zip codes, right? The one that you never are in that point, right? And you're looking at that, and you're saying like, okay, I got to get one customer. Well, guess what? If that one customer tells somebody else, that's 2 customers that you have in that neighborhood. And then if those 2 people tell somebody, that's 4, right? And then 8, but it's still not the multiplier that you had when you had 15 people in the neighborhood. So you want to go ahead and look at that, because those people are consistently seeing your trucks, uniforms, they're consistently seeing all of your business in there. So they're more likely to spend. So where you spend matters just as much as how you spend, right, guys? And so you need to also adjust your strategy by seasonality and demand, which I don't like. Guys think that they need more marketing here, or this other marketing lever here and this other marketing lever here, right? When you don't need to do that, guys. One thing, key adjustments to make, guys, is increase your ad spend in the peak season, spring, summertime, late fall time. You want to go ahead and increase ad spend during those peak seasons. And reduce your budget in the winter, but don't completely do it, because that's also something that can hurt you as well, because you end up losing momentum. But you need to promote seasonal services like gutter cleaning or holiday lighting year round, guys. You need to be doing that year round. Not, and I'm not saying that you need to, because you guys are like, well, Jonathan, you just told us right now to go ahead and promote or increase ad spend during the peak season. But that doesn't mean that you just stop advertising. So like holiday lighting, you can still be promoting that even in like March, right? Just to put it in your client's mind in that sense. And so pre-book returning clients before the season starts, right? So pre-book them before the season starts. I've talked about that previously, guys, but you want to pre-book them. If it's like February or January at that point, give them an incentive, right? Or just simply hit them up and say, hey Jim and Nancy, we did your property last year, is it good if we get you guys on the books, this year as well? And so you want to go ahead and pre-book those clients so that you have predictable revenue, right? So one big thing that people don't do at this level too is they don't raise prices when demand is highest, because you boost your margins without more work. So it's like a force multiplier, as I talked about. If you increase your ad spend and you get more leads, and then you also raise your prices, you're gonna, obviously when you raise your prices, you're gonna have a lower close rate. But if you're making up for that lower close rate by getting more leads, you know what I mean? And you guys might say, well, Jonathan, you just said, more leads isn't the equation. But guys, what did I say? I said increase ad spend in peak seasons and adjust. So adjust your strategy based on seasonality and demand. You're being proactive, not reactive in your marketing. But guess what, guys? If you increase that ad spend when it's super busy at that point, and then also you're raising your prices, when you raise your prices, you know what I mean? You have a lower close rate, but you have more leads. And so since you have more leads, you have more opportunities to, actually go ahead and close customers. You're going to find out that you actually are doing the same amount of work. Guess what, guys? You're doing the same amount of work and you're making, if not the same, but more money. It's funny how that works, because one of our clients that I was just talking to yesterday, shifted 60% of his ad budget into the spring, summertime and raised their rates during this time period, and revenue jumped by 40% without hiring any new crews at all. Any new crews for like that monthly revenue range that they did the previous year, they went ahead and jumped that 40%, and they basically almost did the same amount of jobs. But how were they able to do that? Because guess what? They advertised more, and then they raised their prices, and that allowed them to put them in a premium position. So smart companies scale by anticipating the slow seasons, not reacting to them, or not even the slow seasons, but they also scale by anticipating the busy seasons and not reacting to them. Because a lot of guys would just say, I'll wait for my customers to call me, or I'll wait for them to do that, or hey, I know it's going to get busy in 2 weeks, and they don't do anything, and they're wishing on a prayer. You don't want to do that. And so also another thing that a lot of people don't do consistently, and you can do this on your social media platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and other areas like Instagram, is educate your market to create demand. So educate on damage prevention, mold, algae, unsealed pavers, run seasonal awareness campaigns, right? Like why your gutters, why clogged gutters this fall can affect your home value, whatever it may be. Use content that answers, like why now? What happens if you wait to do this? And so you can also show videos too of, these type of situations as well to educate your customers, because guess what? That might incite and motivate them to contact you. So when you teach, you lead, and buyers trust leaders, right? So be that leader. Be the one to educate, because when you educate the market, it does create that demand, because they may not be aware that they need your service. They may not be aware of that. So you need to educate them to make them aware that they need your service. Right? So monthly metrics dashboard, what to track and when to track, guys. As you can see, I'm giving you the structure right now. So what do you want to track? So the core metrics you want to track every 30 days, guys, is your cost per lead by channel, your cost per acquisition, your revenue per your lead source, right? So you want to track that, because guess what, guys? If you have like a pie chart for the revenue, and let's say, and I'm just going to throw something out here. Let's say you're running SEO and Google Ads, right? And you find that your SEO is bringing you 80% of your leads, and then you have your Google Ads bringing you like only 5% at that point. Well, you might be putting the same amount of effort in Google Ads as you are with SEO, right? Or even Facebook ads. Like let's just say you're running Google Ads and Facebook ads, and Google Ads is like performing better than Facebook ads, or vice versa in that sense. You might be treating both of them the same, but guess what? You're not doubling down on those. You're not doubling down on the one that's actually working, even though you have the same amount of effort. You could put the same amount of effort in your Facebook ads and your Google ads, but one of them, if you're tracking the revenue per lead source, one of them might be giving you 3 times as much revenue, but yet you're treating them with the same time, attention, and energy. When you could be putting that in that single channel, because you're tracking the revenue by the source, and guess what? You get more. And so you need to do by your close rate by your service type, whether it's house washing, driveway cleaning, roof cleaning, paver sealing, because this will let you know, what pain points are these people having. It'll be able to allow you to identify leaky buckets that you have in your process. You need to talk about your average job size as well, guys. So you want to go ahead and, identify your average job size so that you can see if you need to raise it up at that point, and your revenue per crew, right? So you need to look at your revenue per crew, because you can find low performers in that sense. You can find out the capacity that your team has, and so you want to go ahead and look at that as well, so that you build up some consistency as well. So what's a cadence, guys? Monthly, look at your cost per lead, your cost per acquisition, your job size, and your crew efficiency. Quarterly, kind of shift your budget based on ROI, guys, right? So you're looking at that quarterly every 3 months, because guys, every 3 months the weather changes, or there's some seasonal thing in the exterior cleaning industry. Think about it. From January to March, you got to evaluate your marketing budget. What do most guys do in March? They're like, hey, I need to increase it, because you're getting in the busy season. So then you have from January to March, then you have from April to July. Then what happens, guys? In August, it gets really slow. But also you're heading into the fall time, where you might need to make an entire shift into the services you're marketing. You might start marketing Christmas lights and gutter cleaning, right? And so you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, I need to do that. And then from September to December, guess what? By the time you hit December, in that sense, You're looking at like, oh, what should our winter marketing strategy be like? So that's why every quarter you want to go ahead and shift your budget or be looking into that. And annually, you want to evaluate your long-term strategy and any expansion opportunities or things to cut back in that sense. So high-performing companies don't guess, they measure, refine, and scale. That's how they're able to get consistent results. So guys, in this section, we're talking about from one-off jobs to reoccurring revenue. Because one of the biggest things too, guys, just like the previous section, is you want to maximize your revenue per customer in that sense, guys. You want to maximize that, which a lot of guys aren't doing at this stage. That's why I say more leads doesn't equate to higher revenue or higher profit, right? So why profit beats volume? More jobs won't break the 50K ceiling, better jobs will. Remember that, guys. More jobs won't break the 50K, ceiling, better jobs will. So your schedule is full, but profit margins aren't growing. You rely on new leads instead of maximizing the existing ones, and you're busy with low-ticket work that doesn't scale. So you got to make that shift from doing more to earning more per job, from chasing leads to building long-term value, from low margin, hustle to high margin focus. So what is low margin hustle, guys? That means more yard signs, more this, more that. But we just went over ways, guys, right now of how you can have more high margin focus. So that is what that truly is. And so scaling past this isn't about doing more jobs. It's about making every job worth more. So guys, you can build a local presence and strategic partnerships, which we've talked about previously. But the biggest thing is guys don't track this. They don't track who the top referrers are. And so the biggest thing that you want to go ahead and do, and I heard this from Alex Hormozy, and he's actually truly correct on this, is that when somebody refers somebody to you at that point, whether it's another landscaper or a plumber, a lot of the time, guys, we don't tell them how well that referral went. So they won't even probably give you another referral because they're like, I gave them the referral, but I don't know what happened to that customer, to be honest with you. Or that customer may not even reach out to say what an awesome, and let's hope not a horrible experience, but what an awesome experience was working with your company, right? And so what you want to go ahead and do is you want to be able to track your referrals and these strategic partnerships in that sense. And so who's a person that gives you the most strategic partnership? Invest more of your time into them. And so you want to track this stuff so that you know the people that are actually really giving you referrals and the people who aren't. So set a monthly outreach goal too for how many strategic partners you're going to end up building in that sense, right? So I'm going to do these new contacts, these touch points. And then also, guys, you can offer co-branded referral programs. So if there's a landscaper in your area, or even better, right? There's paver sealing only businesses and there's pressure washing businesses as well. So a paver sealing only business, they can do some pressure washing, and a pressure washing business may be able to do some paver sealing, But if let's say that a pressure washing company that does no paver sealing and a paver sealing company that does no pressure washing, what if they had a co-branded referral program, right? To where it was just they actually had a program, they actually had a co-branded referral program and thing to where they had packages that they both had together that was, joint. They did discounts for using each other. They had all of that. Because guess what that's going to end up doing? Giving you more consistency. And you're not working for those jobs at that point. You're just getting them because of what? Your strategic partnership in that sense. And so that's something that you guys want to go ahead and build up, is offer co-branded referral programs, right? And so these are something that you guys would want to go ahead and do. So if you're not knowing your local market, you're just another option, not the option. And so biggest thing right here, guys, is that you want to maximize your current network or get more people in that network for your strategic partnerships, right, guys? Because it's not about getting more leads by just blasting stuff out, but it's about leveraging these kind of partnerships because they will eventually get you more leads and more premium leads probably as well. So turn every job into a long-term relationship. So guys, as you already know, offer biannual or quarterly plans in that sense. So offer those kind of packaging. As we talked about, pre-scheduled cleanings, automate your follow-up, make referrals automatic, guys. So, one big thing is make it simple. Give $50. Yeah, and get a $50 Amazon gift card every time you refer somebody to us. And, we end up working with them. If somebody does 4 people in that sense, that's $200 worth of Amazon gift cards. And guess what? That $200 is probably still a really good investment because you probably would have still used $200 to acquire that same customer. And that same customer is probably going to stay with you anyway for a long time because guess what? They're referred by their good friend or by a person that they trust. So therefore, they're probably going to consistently use you as well. So track reward and top refers as well. So you want to also, as I talked about, previously, is you want to track your top referrers. And so you want to maximize each lead's value. So reactivate past clients seasonally or people that you haven't worked with in that current year. So right now the current year is 2025, right? If there's people that you haven't worked with in 2024, or if there's people that you didn't work with in 2023, right, in 2024, you need to hit those people up. Because guess what? They worked with you in 2023, but they did in 2024. Why is that? Hit those people up, right? And so prioritize your long-term value customers. Always like the customers that if you're tracking this, and that's why I say that's important, if you're tracking like the lifetime value of your customers, you can sort out your customers that have the biggest lifetime value or who spent the most with you. Focus on those people and upselling in that sense. Focus on those people for referrals in that. So these are the people, that you should be doing, because guess what? One good job can turn it into 3 by design, not chance. And that's what's so great about the exterior cleaning industry. Because when you're in other places like HVAC, that's like people only need that whenever like something's broke, right? Even though it's a great industry. But the thing is, for exterior cleaning, you can go out to somebody's house 4 to 5 times a year, right? You could go out to their house 4 to 5 times a year. You know what I mean? In the spring, you can wash their house. In the summer, you clean their windows. In the fall time, you can go ahead and clean their gutters. In the winter time, you can go ahead and put out their Christmas lights for Christmas light season in that sense. That is what you guys can end up doing for these clients and for, turning every job into that long-term relationship. So that is how those guys are able to maximize that. It's not just a one-off, one-night stand type of approach. And so what is a strategic playbook for maximizing your revenue per customer to kind of, close off this section particularly is going to be eliminate low-margin jobs that drain your crew's time, own your local presence and build referral networks, create relationships that turn into long-term revenue, and stop selling once and start building lifetime value in that sense. So sell multiple times to even your loyal customers, right? So they build customers for life, the business that do more than $50,000 a month. So guys, we're going to talk about from operator to CEO now, guys. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about how you can scale beyond just being, an operator in that when it comes to this. So when you're at this stage of $30,000 to $50,000 a month in your exterior cleaning business, you're probably still the bottleneck. So you're probably still answering calls, quoting jobs, or quoting even some jobs, managing marketing and handling issues. So every decision runs through you, which means you're the bottleneck. You can't grow if you're stuck working in the business instead of on it, right? So the shift, guys, is about delegating marketing and sales roles, building systems that operate without you, and leading with strategy instead of hustle, as we've really highlighted, right, guys? And so biggest thing that you can do is delegating marketing and sales roles. That's one of the first things that you need to be doing when you're at this level. And so you need to define your clear roles, like who owns the lead follow-up, who manages your CRM, who tracks the ad performance. These are things that you need to go ahead and define. And you can start simple, guys, which means assign like a VA to handle, lead handling, right? Or an estimator in that sense. You don't even need a sales guy. You could just have somebody that gives out estimates. You know what I mean? To just have an estimator. So have someone responsible for booking and following up, so yeah, that's just something that you should be doing. And so you need to track that. You need to track the performance for those different things. But yes, you need to immediately go ahead and delegate those marketing and sales roles. And so obviously, guys, when it comes to owner to operator, or operator to owner, a lot of guys, they'll spend all their time in the truck, all this time doing that, but they're not building automated, scalable systems in that sense. So they always find themselves in this zone. I was having a conversation with a client, and we were talking about it. He's like, dude, I just can't get off the truck. And I said, dude, because all you do is focus on things about the truck, right? Focus on getting the job completed, but you're not focused on building out SOPs. You're not focused on building out these systems and automations in your business, or even hiring for those so that that work can be done for you. So automate repetitive stuff, online booking confirmations, review requests and reminders, CRMs with auto follow-ups to your customers to say that you're on the way. There's plenty of CRMs that will let your customers know where it's automated so you don't have to manually do it. Standardize your workflow. So that means adding checklist-based items, right? For scheduling, job prep, quoting, follow-up. When you're on the job site, you need to be standardizing those workflows. You need to have SOPs for every key process. for your sales team, for your field work, for your admin team. You need to have SOPs for every key process and every key hire that you have. And so, use tools. Obviously, guys, job management software, you guys already know the jazz on this. If you're at this stage, you know that you should be using those follow-up tools, right? And so you need to remove yourself from the daily marketing, as we talked about, guys, which we talked about marketing and sales. But you need to let go of the hands-on work. I see too many guys where they're like doing the social media stuff. They're doing like, I don't even manage our own social media anymore, guys, or even our YouTube channel. I have somebody, of course, I'm the one producing these videos, but I have somebody that posts on my behalf, edits this stuff and formats it perfectly for you all. So you got to stop. And even this PowerPoint I had somebody do as well. I didn't create this PowerPoint, guys, but you need to stop responding to every lead yourself and stop being the only person who knows how we do things. And so, as you guys already know, you need a system. One big thing that I see, guys, that they need to do at this stage too is systemize for sustainability. So that means you need to train back up so marketing doesn't stop, marketing or sales doesn't stop if one person leaves. You know what I mean? And so that's one thing that I think guys rely too much on is they'll find one good guy and it's just like, oh, I'll rely on this one good guy. But what happens when that one good guy leaves? You don't have a backup for that. So you want to make sure that you do. And so what does the strategic playbook look like this, guys? Delegate with clarity. So that means that you need to define your roles, guys, right? You need to define your roles. So at that point, define your roles. Once you define your roles, you have a sales or admin or VA handle lead responses and quoting. At that point, the marketing execution is owned by somebody else, right? Not just supervised, it's owned by somebody else. Your lead strategy, so you lead strategy and not task. So a lot of guys are just task givers. Do this, do that, right? And then they have to follow up and they have to, end up following up and managing that whole project or managing that whole job. You should lead the strategy so that your team, you actually go ahead and you equip your team with that knowledge. You know what I mean? Of what to do in certain situations. So you lead by strategy in that sense, not by task, like do this, do that. Obviously, you build your foundational systems, have your scheduling, your CRM with automated follow-ups, your SOPs, right? You need to operate like a business. As I said, plan out your days ahead, review KPIs, all of that, guys, for, the sales tools and systems. And so, guys, we covered a lot here, and I'm at like 51 minutes right now. We covered a lot here, guys, in that sense. So from breaking past the $50,000 mark requires the 5 core shifts, which I will recap again, guys. Build a predictable marketing engine, guys. The second is position yourself as a go-to person, not the cheapest. Track your ROI, your CPL, LTV, and know it's actually working. Maximize every customer with retention and upsells, and systemize, delegate, and lead with strategy, going from operator to CEO. So that's what you want to go ahead and do. So what are some quick things that you guys can do to implement first, like your next steps? Audit your current marketing. Which channels are you profitable? Where are you wasting your money at? Define your high margin service stack. Eliminate any low profit work or service areas or zip codes and focus on premium services in areas that scale. Delegate one responsibility this month, whether that's quoting, lead intake, follow-up, automation, marketing task. At least delegate one responsibility this month. And tighten up your follow-up process, because that's where most guys at this stage fail at. So at that sequence, use a CRM to automate your follow-ups and, have seasonal campaigns for the current clients that you have, right, guys? So you want to make sure that you're doing that. So you don't have to implement everything at once. Just start, just start with what will create the most leverage right now for your business, right? So if, defining if you look at it and you need to hire somebody like to answer the phone or an office admin because it's taking up your time, then guess what, guys? That is the thing that you need to leverage the most right now. And so, you have to ask yourself if you're ready to scale past 50,000. Are you still reacting to the slow season? Are you still doing everything yourself? Is your marketing producing leads or profit? Do you have systems that run in place without you? If the answer is no, that's the opportunity right there. So the only thing that's standing between you doing like $50,000 plus months is structure, positioning, and systemized marketing. It's not this new ad or this new marketing kind of thing that you need to end up doing. And so, guys, obviously I'm going to have a shameless plug right here, But if you need help with your online marketing, you can visit our website to book a free strategy call, as you guys can see at that URL below. It'll also be in the description. But thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, majority and the bulk of our client base are people that are doing $30,000 to $50,000 a month. And so you are the type of clients that we love helping, because we're able to, 2x those type of businesses all the time and really maximize those type of businesses and really help them scale where they need to scale. And honestly, that's my favorite revenue range, guys, the $30,000 to $50,000 a month range. And of course, guys that are higher, don't get me wrong, we work with $1 million companies as well. But I love to see those guys that are in this range from $30,000 to $50,000 and really having them grow. So if you guys have any questions, concerns, thoughts, or comments, please leave them in the comments below. And if you also need help, below, you can also visit the description where you guys can book that free strategy call. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.